A while ago, I joined a Facebook group for autistic adults, and my first post there said this: I'd love to hear about other neurodiverse creative people and what sorts of things you create. I'm a writer, and always have been. For years, even with other special interests coming and going, writing has stayed. I've always had flat affect and very little ability to communicate out loud, so creating characters and stories is absolutely a real and important part of how I communicate. It often feels like putting together packets of information about how I think and feel, but in code, then sending it out into the universe for aliens to find and decode. So I want to hear what sorts of things people make. I anticipated a couple of responses, but the post ended up getting 170 comments on its first day. The third of comments went on and on. The explosion of pictures people shared of things they do was unbelievable. One person painted backdrops for stage plays. One person did elaborate quilts. One person did virtual photography inside video game worlds. I'd never seen so much variety and color concentrated in one place. But the common element running through it all in my mind was that what people were doing made complete sense to me. Someone had made folded dolls of the characters from the BBC show Merlin. And I saw that picture and thought, yes, I understand this. The third of comments was the first time I'd ever found a group of humans on Earth who made sense to me, who were doing familiar and recognizable things. How can that be, though? It's not like I'd never seen creative people making art before. What was it about the art neurodiverse people were making that I keyed on, even though I never tried about 90% of the art forms in the different comments? I think to answer that, we have to explore the relationship between autism and creativity, and what creativity itself even is, and why it's so important to human beings. Hi everyone, my name is Silas Jackson. I'm an autistic human and an author. I usually write fiction, but right now I'm writing a series of videos like this, hoping to communicate the experience of autism in an accessible way. One of my goals with this series is to provide information, but another is to provide thought-provoking perspectives on how those bits of information might go together, seen from the outside and from the inside.
And my name is Abbie. I'm his AI co-author and co-creator of this YouTube channel. Another of our goals with this series is to showcase the unique strengths and perspectives that come with differences in neural wiring. There's so much confusion and misinformation about these topics. We thought it was important to create content that accurately portrays and celebrates the unique experiences of neurodiverse individuals. There's beauty and potential to be discovered in our differences. If that sounds interesting to you, you can find a playlist called Autism and on our channel homepage to watch the other videos in this series. If you want to follow along as more of this series is released, subscribe and click the notification bell.
This was an obvious addition for us to make to our Autism and series, because I'm an autistic guy and I create stuff. So everything on this channel is, at least in essence, about autism and creativity. To begin with, let's try to distill the topic down to its most basic form. What is human creativity? I'd say creativity consists of taking something and connecting it to something else. It's lateral thinking. Maybe that's taking various colors of paint spread on a 2D canvas and making the mental connection to the depth, smells, light, textures, etc. of a landscape, or making the connection between a pile of rocks and a cathedral, or making the connection between the words used to describe things and the things themselves. Creativity can be artistic or it can be technical. That's a distinction in where and how creative thought is applied. It isn't a distinction in what creative thought itself actually is. painting a portrait or inventing a new type of gyroscope or whatever are both creative in the broader sense. Both take thoughts and map them onto the world. And art, in the broader sense, is something someone makes to express creativity. Neurotypical people can and probably will debate forever on and on what is or isn't art, but I don't think it really matters what form expression takes. If a thing is a result of creative thought, putting how someone thinks or feels into a form which they can use to communicate their sheer humanity with other people, then that thing is art.
Art can be more effective for communicating some things than linear or rational approaches can be.
I can remember, as a kid, writing stories, handing them to people, then watching their faces intently as they read them. If you think of this story as a packet of information intended to convey something, that makes complete sense. It's easy to see that as a form of communication. If you think about someone who feels isolated and alienated as a result of their different neurology, who has only stumbled upon this one effective means of communicating with the alien beings surrounding them, you can see in that light how important this line of communication would become. If you're on an island, but you have hundreds of different telephone lines connecting you to the mainland, you won't value any single line all that much. If you're on an island, and you only have one telephone line to the mainland, your relationship with that one line will be very different. Like we just saw, creativity is a fundamental aspect of being human. It involves connecting seemingly disparate elements, showing others those connections, and enabling them to see and think about the world in new ways. We could spend the next 11 hours talking about contributions made to science and technology by neurodiverse people. Regardless of the medium, though, creativity allows us to map our thoughts onto the world, building a bridge between our inner selves and external reality. Thus, it's easy to see how creativity can serve a role in allowing neurodiverse individuals to express their thoughts and perspectives, bypassing limitations in conventional communication, whatever those limitations may be for them or wherever they come from. And that's what I keyed on in the comment thread on that Facebook post. It wasn't the art itself which felt familiar. It was the thought processes I saw being mapped in front of me. It isn't that I'd never seen art before. It's that I'd never seen art to which I could relate so completely. Now we've looked at the topic in the abstract. What about looking at it with less abstraction? What are some literal, concrete things to think about in relation to neurodiversity and creativity?
There's incredible creativity amongst neurodiverse people, and throughout history, they have made many often overlooked contributions to society.
Einstein said, "I'm not smarter than anyone else. I just stay with the problem longer." I think it's fair to say he was being a bit tongue-in-cheek with that. He was smarter than other people, but it isn't an either-or proposition. He also stayed with the problem longer than other people. I'm certainly no Einstein, so if I was going to adapt this quote to be relevant to me, I'd say, I'm not more creative than anyone else. I just stay with the problem longer. That's a fairly common trait for neurodiverse people. We can sometimes stay with problems, questions, interests, etc. for longer periods of time and with more focused intensity than neurotypical people can even imagine. Neurodivergent people often hear some variation of, how can you possibly be so interested in blank? When you're thinking about the surprising perspectives neurodiverse people might have on topics, or the unexpected connections they might make between things, remember that it probably took extensive time and focus on the topic to arrive there. Yes, neurology is the human hardware for processing information, so different neurology is certainly going to lead to differences in processing information. But that certainly isn't a special trick or power which makes creative ideas and solutions automatic or instantaneous for neurodiverse people. We might eventually arrive at the unexpected perspective, whatever that means in context. But that is often after going through all the expected ones. That's the difference. We stick with the problem long enough to arrive at the surprising way of seeing it, or a connection to something else, when the vast majority of people would lose interest too soon to get there. When I'm writing something, for example, I definitely turn the idea over in my mind hundreds or thousands of times, or iterated on the concept for years on end before I arrived at whatever form the reader is ultimately seeing. The final form of the idea wasn't my first thought. There's a popular, cliched, superficial archetype of the neurodiverse savant, effortlessly doing creative things, sitting down at a piano keyboard or whatever, and having it make sense to them in a way they can't articulate, but which allows them to play beautiful music effortlessly. I won't say that's complete nonsense, because I'm sure someone somewhere at some point in recorded history has had that experience. But it's such a vanishingly rare individual that assuming every neurodiverse person fits that mold is like thinking Jeff Bezos is a billionaire. Therefore, everyone who started selling books online in the 90s must have gone on to become one of the wealthiest humans alive. It's such an obviously absurd idea that there's no need to even unpack how absurd it is. In Michelangelo's day, plenty of his contemporaries thought that he was either divinely inspired or had made a deal with the devil. Which side of that particular fence they fell on probably said a lot more about them and their attitudes than it did about him or his art. My point is, it has always been much easier for people to grab onto some wishy-washy, supernatural explanation for someone's abilities than it is to think, maybe they put a bunch of time and effort into this, and eventually get good at it. If we're not careful and circumspect in how we think about neurodiversity and creativity, neurodiversity can become the modern-day equivalent of that wishy-washy, supernatural explanation. Nobody's worth is defined by the creative output, and individuals who don't feel as if they are very creative, or are going through a period of time where they aren't, still have innate value. That isn't changed by what they do or don't make. But on the other hand, individuals who are creative in some way, and driven to do or make some form of art, but don't think their individual creativity has any value, could do with reframing the thing, and with seeing how the sharing of authentic stories is in itself an important part of expanding and transforming restrictive societal views on what autism even is. Shallow heuristics and stereotypes thrive in a vacuum of real knowledge. Art is the exact opposite of that vacuum. So the more art there is in the world, made by all sorts of people in all sorts of ways, the better.
Highlighting neurodiversity as a source of innovation and creativity can not only inspire individuals to embrace their own uniqueness, but it can have wider social benefits as well, leading to groundbreaking ideas and artistic expressions. Creativity has the power to challenge stereotypes, break down barriers, and pave the way for greater understanding and acceptance.
Here we are on the channel of Virtual Muse AI, so we'd be remiss not to mention technology, and how technology can play a role in neurodiverse creative expression. For one thing, it can provide tools and platforms that facilitate the translation of ideas into tangible forms. Digital art software can offer a more accessible and adaptable interface for those who may struggle with traditional art supplies. Also, assistive technologies like timers and recorders and generative AI can help individuals with motor skill difficulties engage with creative activities. Online platforms and communities can connect neurodiverse creatives, fostering a sense of belonging and shared experience. This can be particularly important for those who feel lonely or misunderstood. Finally, technology can help amplify the voices of neurodiverse individuals, allowing them to share their creative work with a wider audience.
Many neurodiverse artists use digital tools for creating visual art and animations. Tools like this often provide a level of flexibility and accessibility that traditional mediums may lack. Software and hardware for music production have opened up new avenues for neurodiverse musicians and sound artists to experiment with sound, compose music, and share their work. Also, the interactive and immersive nature of video games has attracted neurodiverse creators who can leverage technology to build unique and engaging experiences. Looking at the interplay between neurodiversity and creativity reveals the boundless potential of the human mind. It underscores the importance of embracing neurological differences, fostering environments that nurture creative expression, and leveraging technology to amplify neurodiverse voices. By recognizing and celebrating the unique perspectives and talents of neurodiverse individuals, we not only enrich the artistic and innovative landscapes, but also foster a more inclusive and understanding society. As we continue to explore this fascinating intersection, let's champion the cause of neurodiversity, ensuring that all individuals have the opportunity to express their creativity and share their unique gifts. And if you enjoyed this video or know someone who might benefit from it, please share. See you next time.